Yeah, it is another episode of the Autumn Windbags. RJ Clifford, Juan Soto, and his pussy. Let's have some fun today. The 2025 Raiders Draft Special. Every year you look forward to it. Every year we look forward to bringing it to you. And here it is, baby. Our legs are wide open. Come on in. The water's fine. What, you're more bent over? What are you doing? Reverse cowgirl?
No, I think I'm just here for the draft.
You're just watching? You're just sitting in the corner and jerking off?
No, I'm just no, not that either.
Yeah, I think you
I
are.
don't think I'm doing any of that.
None of that?
No.
Prude. Such a prude. Well, that's what I'm doing. We're doing some draft stuff. It's our special. 10 questions heading into the Raiders 2025 NFL Draft. We do this every year. Excited to do it again this year. And because it's a draft special, we're going to do things differently. We're going to draft our questions. I got like 8 or 9 questions that I want answered. Soto's got 10 questions he want answered, but only the top 10 will make the cut. So we'll draft it. How should we decide who gets the first pick?
I'll go ahead and give it to you, sir.
What a guy. What a guy. All right. First question. Who is running the Raiders draft room? Now, mind exactly how I asked that question. Not who has final say, not who's doing the legwork. I want to know who is running the draft room, because you've got a lot of different power going on, right? Mark Davis is obviously the final say. He ain't running, you know what I mean? Does he have any, like, if he had 0 input, that's most likely the amount of input that he has, right? Tom Brady is more likely the final say. But is he in there, in that draft room, directing traffic, picking the 7th over, the 7th round picks, grinding with like the lowest scouts? I don't know. John Spytek is the GM, and his title says that that's what he would be doing. He's never done it before. He's never been the GM before. And then Pete Carroll's the head coach, not the GM, but he has had that position before. How much influence does he have? So I don't know the answer to this question. I can hypothesize, but I'm wondering, Soto, who do you think is going to be running the draft room in Green Bay for the Las Vegas Raiders?
So this answer is a little bit more nuanced. So I think Spytek will run the draft room. I think there's going to be a lot of different input into how the strategy for the draft is constructed. I think it's up to John Spytek to make sure that they're staying on target and on plan. But what is the plan is really the main question. Mm-hmm. That's what's going to go into and who has more influence into what the strategy and the draft board and all that stuff. Because after that, it's just kind of following what you are, all the work you put into it. So I'm thinking, okay, Spytek is the guy who makes the final decision because he's the GM. Okay, great. But it's a decision that's kind of like a choose your own adventure book. It's like, what's going to happen if you go to page 6, right?
Yeah.
So I think that it's going to be Pete Carroll saying, this is what we need. This is what I want for my team. You go out and get it. Okay, now this is how and also, and Tom Brady's more of like the CEO style from the background. How does this align with our culture? How does this align with what we want to have done? He's not saying, no, don't take that guy, take this guy. I think more so it's, okay, I see what you're doing with that option. How does it align overall with what we want to have done? I think that's kind of how it's going to fall in.
I'm with you. I think Spytek will be doing like the legwork / bitch work, right? Like the paperwork, his team will make sure that like the graphs are up, the data's out, everyone's got their 3-ring binder with all the info they need, right? He'll be handling all that, the logistics of it. I think him and Pete Carroll will be sitting right next to each other at the head of the table, going over stuff. I think Pete, not overrides the wrong word, but Pete will like, well, I want to do this, I want to do that. Spytek will kind of navigate it. And then I think Tom Brady will just be in the corner like this. And then they'll be like it'll be like Pete being like, all right, guys, I think we'll do Mason Graham at 6. Spytek like, yep, I'm with you. Mason Graham at 6. Let's do that. How's that set? Patrick Graham? Do you like Mason Graham? Okay. And then everyone just kind of like slowly turns and looks at Brady. And then Brady just goes, and then they go. I can see it going like that because Brady's going to want his fingers in it, but he's not going to be grinding tape and shit like that, right? It's just kind of just like, cool, boss. Okay.
Brady's going to say, look, with the information that you've given me, sounds like a good idea.
Yep.
Because you're the guys who are grinding all the tape and you've made the draft boards, and off of what the work that we've done, we trust our work, right? Of course you trust your work. You're going to do all that. I mean, they're doing mock drafts every single day right now of different scenarios, right? So they have all the scenarios done of what they want to do with certain players who are available. If anyone's caught off guard, either your name is John Gruden or you don't know what you're doing.
And then Mark Davis comes in with a PF Chang's bib with a mouthful of wings. Like, who do we get? All right. Keep going, guys. The checks will cash, I promise.
Faux show.
All right. Question number 2. This is you, Soto.
All righty. Here's my first question. Will the Raiders stick with Geno Smith as their long-term quarterback or draft a quarterback early? It's an interesting question because I think we talked about in the last episode last week, zero clarity in the draft. I thought we had some clarity once we got, okay, it's 2-year extension off of this one, so you're going to have at least, him around for 3 seasons. No. It's basically a 1-year deal with a little bit of a sweetener on top after the first year. So there's zero clarity off of how long Geno Smith is going to stick around. So I genuinely think that I don't see this draft room feeling anyone outside of Cam Ward is going to be a long-term solution for them or better than what they already have. So they're better off hanging off and maybe drafting a guy later on this season or getting one the following draft and sticking with Geno. So I don't see them drafting a quarterback early this year.
What is early? Is round 2 early?
I would say round 2 is early.
Okay. So rounds 1 and 2 early, 3 and beyond, not early. To answer the second half of the question, where they draft a quarterback early, all this just like Tom Brady, Shedeur Sanders shit. It's just been going on so long, and it was going on before lying season of the draft. That's the only thing that makes me think there's maybe some. And even if Tom Brady loves Shedeur Sanders, does he say we're taking Shedeur at 6 no matter what? Is it we're trading up for Shedeur? Like whatever, right? Like that's not a thing. But I just have to feel like there's something there because it's been there for so long. This Ashton Genty stuff that happened 45 minutes ago in the middle of lying season. Not that we won't draft Genty. I'm just saying it's in the middle of lying season. And it's coming from Spytek, whose main job should be throwing the other 31 GMs off the scent, right? So again, like with Geno Smith's contract, we can move off from him after 1 year. We can move off of him after 2 years, after 3. Spytek did fucking sorcery with that deal. So that gives them the huge flexibility of, do we get Jackson Dart in 2? Do we get Will Howard in 4? Do we go Shedeur with the 6th overall? The Geno Smith deal makes any of that work. We think this guy's ready after a year. We think this guy's ready after 2 years. All of that works. With all of that said, long story short, I still say no. There's way too many holes in the roster. You have your starting quarterback. Pete Carroll loves him. The draft class isn't great. I gave all these possibilities where there's scenarios where it could happen, but with all the holes in this roster, quarterback class being what it is, no, we don't draft the quarterback early.
Let me put a quick cherry on top of that.
Pop it.
What Tom Brady wants to do more than anything is win. So that is going to supersede any type of perceived loyalty he has to Shedeur Sanders or any type of background or relationship. He wants to win. So he's gonna push for and have a strategy set to what's going to help them win the most. Now, you could mentor somebody. That's just because you mentor somebody doesn't mean you have to feel they're a great X, whatever you're mentoring them on.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's kind of overblown. Oh, well, he mentored Shedeur Sanders and this and that. Yeah, who cares? That doesn't mean that Tom Brady feels that Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in this draft class or the second or third. It doesn't matter. Just because he mentored him.
Yeah, no. I'm 100% with you. But when you hear what he said about Shedeur, it's like, it's everything Tom Brady views in himself. Pure competitor, all he wants to win, 100% football. Yeah, I have no doubt that just like Tom Brady's feelings are going to make him pick up somebody he doesn't think is good. No, but I think he mentored Shedeur with the
How
idea
about
of
no?
amazing. How about no? All right, my turn. Let's go with what position of need will the Raiders not address in the draft? Because Lord knows we have a lot of positions of need. We need an X wide receiver. We need 2 at least cornerbacks. We need at least 1 running back. We need help at linebacker. We need, what else am I missing?
Interior
Guards,
offensive line, interior defensive
interior
line,
offensive line, defensive
wide receiver,
line, right?
running back, backup quarterback.
There aren't enough draft spots for all the holes we have in this roster. And when I say address, that means 7th rounders. That's not really addressing to me. Which position that the Raiders sorely need do you think will not be addressed critically in this
I think
draft?
linebacker.
There are some good linebackers, but I do like where I think wide receiver. I think the Raiders do sign Tyler Lockett. Pete Carroll says, "Okay, we're good. We're not gonna go." It's not a great wide receiver class, especially on top. You can get some depth in the 4th round, right? Maybe there's like a 4th rounder, but for like a true X wide receiver, that's like a 1st or 2nd round type pick for what you're looking for. And I just don't think we don't go T-Mac at 6. We're not going T-Mac at 6, and then after that, who's going to be that's going to be a real game changer?
I saw a mock draft, and it made a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. It was Chad Rader. I like Chad Reader.
I have no idea.
Oh,
I like Chad Rader. I thought it was like a Raider guy.
No,
I like him so much I don't know his name.
He had us taking Luther Burden in the 2nd round with a slide, and I'm like, if we got Luther Burden in the 2nd round. Damn, he's everything that Trey Tucker wasn't.
Wishes he was.
He wishes he was. He's all separation and all yards after catch.
Yeah.
So yeah, and he is the.
If he falls to us in the 2nd, I'll stand corrected.
Sweet.
I will be happy to be proven wrong.
He was definitely he's a Chip Kelly style receiver because of his ability to create separation quickly and get yards after catch.
You say linebacker, I say receiver. I think those are the top 2. I think we're definitely drafting some corners. We're definitely drafting some linemen. Definitely drafting some running backs. I think those are all addressed, but only so many draft spots, man. And it's just not a great wide receiver class. All right, your turn.
Okay, speaking of draft capital, will they trade down from number 6 to accumulate more draft capital? I think it's a lot stronger possibility than people are giving it credit for. Mm-hmm. I think it's entirely possible that we move down a few spots. And look, if the way I see it, there's a handful maybe of players that have like those elite traits that you're looking for at premium positions. And after that, it's like, okay, well, a guy that goes 8, 9, 10 is just as good as a guy that goes 24, 25, 26. Mm-hmm. It's just basically what's your flavor. So we could end up moving back and accumulating more draft capital for a better quarterback quarterback class next season to be able to get more ammunition and maybe accumulate more picks this season. So yeah, I can definitely see that happening.
Yeah, I think it's a possibility. I think, especially, I think other GMs recognize what we've been talking about with this draft for a while, of how the top like 8 to 10 picks are like the legit first round type talent, and then after that, it's kind of murky. Like Indy at 14, like there just isn't anyone worth the 14th pick in the NFL draft, right? Like by the time you get to 14, all the like real true first round studs will be gone, and you're already kind of reaching in the teens. So the Raiders can trade back and still be in that sweet spot. You could trade from like, let's say they trade with like, I've seen a bunch of mock drafts or like hypotheses that the Shedeur Sanders is available at 6 and New Orleans trades up to 6 to get Shedeur. And the Raiders, get 9 and, a second or something, right? I'm all about that, especially if the Raiders really want Ashton Genty. I think they like if the Raiders, like if that's what they are doing, you can get Genty at 9. I don't think the Jets or Carolina are drafting him. So that would be brilliant move at that point.
Brilliant.
With that said, I think that answer is 100% dependent on who's there. I think Mason Graham you take, maybe even Shedeur the Raiders do take, right? We've talked about earlier. Does Tom Brady just want him for good reasons to take him? Does one of those like 4 or 5 like super studs somehow drop to us at 6, right? Does like any of those guys, any of those guys we talked about just drops. Like I think it's entirely dependent on who's there at 6. But you're right. I haven't heard people really talk about it. I haven't heard a lot of people banging the drum of like trade down, trade down, trade down.
I don't see that being like a wild proposition, because even if we go to like in the middle of the first round, there's still like in a premium position and a premium position of need for us. There's like Jahdae Brown from Texas, who is like physically and the way he plays skill set wise is a prototypical Pete Carroll style corner. So, I mean, there's guys that would fit the system like just out of the package, just wrap him up and okay, he's ready to rock. This is what we're looking for. This is how he plays. He plays how we want him to play. So there's guys that can fit into positions of need that are premium spots beyond the 6th pick. So I see that definitely it's a good possibility.
My turn. Over or under 1.5 running backs drafted by the Las Vegas Raiders. We talked about how it's been the worst. What a great time to need a running back in this draft, right? We had the worst running back room in football, the worst run game in football, for many reasons, but one of them was running back play. Zamir White, he had 4 great games 2 seasons ago. We thought, okay, we can lean on this guy. That didn't work. By some ungodly blessing, Sincere McCormick was way better than advertised, but he can't stay healthy. We're not going to count on an undrafted free agent to carry this team. Dylan Laube had 1 carry and a fumble. And we picked up Mostert, which we're very happy about, but he can't be a 25 carry a game guy, or he can, but it'll be 5 games and then he's done. So I asked you, Soto, over or under 1.5 running backs drafted this season?
I say over. I think it's going to be 2.
Get 2? Okay.
There's just so much talent laid on. One thing that we see a lot of players are taken late in the draft that are like a lot of safeties, a lot of linebackers, a lot of running backs taken late because it's almost like it's not a super premium position, but a lot of people fit the body type for it.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can end up getting like a premium guy, let's just say early in the draft. And you can still get a guy like the Rutgers guy, Kyle Monang guy. Dude had like 2,500 yards the last 2 seasons. Yeah, a ton of touchdowns. He's not a receiver out of the backfield, but if you need another guy to run the ball for you, he's dude. There's a lot of quality running backs. So if you address it early with a premium guy and you want to have a guy for depth, definitely the type of draft that you you want to come into this year because there's just so many guys.
And I also say over. I think we draft 2. And let's just take a moment and realize how big that is. With all the holes on this roster, the Raiders used 2 draft picks on one position. And one position that there's usually only one on the field at the time, right? It's one thing to draft 3 corners or 3 linemen. It's like, yeah, there's a whole bunch of them on the field at the whole time. You need a lot of guys. But that's more to it's the perfect storm of we desperately need it, and this draft class is so deep. I think one of the 6th round picks we use on a running back. I think they'll just
3 of them.
We got 3 of them, right? One of those, like there will be a valuable quality running back available to us at 6. It's just there's just so many good ones. We could get Caleb Johnson in like the 4th. Like
he's flipping.
The Big Ten running back of the year could get in like the 4th. This isn't even like an Ashton Genty or the North Carolina kid. It's like there's just so many quality guys. You're like, all right, we got to get this guy. He's here. Let's take him. Lord knows we need some help in the backfield. Let's go for it. And there's enough different types of guys, right? There's enough, like a wide variety of styles of running. We can get our 3 down guy early. We can get a novelty guy late, a speedster, a bruiser, whatever it may be. There's just too many. There's just too many, and we have too many late round picks to not go, quality pick on a quality guy, and then a 6th rounder as well.
If I was a betting man, I think I would put very, very steep odds on us in the 6th round with those 3 picks, taking an offensive lineman and a running back with 2 of those 3. Just because there's so much depth in both of those positions, you're gonna stumble upon a guy. You're like, dude, I had this a freaking 4th, even late 3rd round grade on this guy, and he's still there. We got to take him. Yeah,
it's like 3 picks in the 6th. Like you're basically just picking up a bunch of what is good in that draft.
Yeah, what's
right?
Best.
You're not drafting for need. You didn't have this guy targeted 2 months ago. It's the 6th round, right? Like there's no one other than like the most junior scout that's maybe like pounding the table for, a guy his roommate knows, right? You're in the 6th round. You're going where there's depth in that draft, and that's O-line running back.
Yep.
All right, your shot.
My turn. My question is, in his first year, will Spytek lean towards best player or less
English
best
classes?
player available, need, or specific archetype? I think it's going to be more of an archetype. I think they're going to have a game plan set that is not 100% best player available, 100% area of need. I think it's going to be a mesh of the 2, where one is going to affect the other, and they're going to build a very unique draft board and strategy for that specific team.
It's very hard to pinpoint because it's a bunch of people in this room that have never had that specific role before, right? Tom Brady's never been a part of this drafting process or been a decision maker or an exec in this capacity. Spytek's never been the guy. He's never been the general manager. He's always been an assistant or something along the lines, contributing, but not sitting in the big chair. The only guy in this scenario that has been the guy we can actually follow what they've done and know that for sure he signed off on it was Pete Carroll. And Pete Carroll is absolutely an archetype guy. He for sure is. And because he's the only guy that we know for sure makes these decisions, I think that bleeds into other things. I think Spytek is willing to not concede, but be like, okay, yeah, like this is what you're about. This is what you like. This is what you look for. You're looking for traits. You're looking for size as opposed to need or just, all right, here's our board of 2,000 players. We'll start cutting them off, like whoever is next. That's who we're getting. I think there's going to be a little bit of that, but I'm with you. I think because of Pete Carroll's MO, that's like the only concrete thing to go off. So I think we go archetype. All right. We've kind of gone over this a little bit, Lee, but let's do this one just directly. Shedeur Sanders is available at 6. What do the Raiders do? You are muted, Soto.
Shedeur Sanders went into my mic. He messed with my mic.
Cut it. It's like that scene in Forrest Gump when Forrest Gump goes to the speak and the general's like pulling the mics out. That's all I have to say about that. Fucking no. Gotta get that shirt. American flag shirt.
American flag shirt. That is sweet.
Shedeur Sanders
I think we trade down, man.
You trade down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hang on.
A lot of value there. A lot of value there in a trade down. New Orleans at 9. I think that makes a ton of sense. I've seen that bantered about a lot. Saints need their quarterback of the future. They're within striking distance, right? They can go from 9 to 6 without giving up the farm. Let's hope they do, but I think they're going to think they don't. And then after that, like who else? Like, not Dallas, not Miami. Anyone else is going to have to give a lot to jump up from, Indy maybe, or
Indy probably is the next one. What are they at? What, 14?
Yep. Indy at 14. And then, it's a steep drop after that. So, hey.
Those are the two big spots. 9 with the Saints and 14 with Indy. Mm-hmm. I think we can get it done for the number 9, a 2 this year and a 2 next year. I think we can do that. I think that'll get it done.
I think that's what happens. I'm not closing the door on the Raiders drafting Shedeur. With the way the Geno Smith contract was put together, with how much Tom Brady for over a year now has talked about how much he likes Shedeur as a competitor and a player. I think that's a real possibility. But I think with Geno, I think with so many needs that we have, how much Spytek loves draft picks, the idea that all it takes is one franchise to think Shedeur Sanders is our franchise quarterback. And then once they have that in their brain, what cost would you not give up? You know what I mean? Like, you'll give up anything.
Can you imagine Shedeur Sanders in New Orleans? Wow, dude. I think it's almost crazier than Shedeur Sanders in Vegas. It's definitely a more wild city.
I can't imagine Shedeur not in a city like that. Like, imagine Shedeur in Green Bay.
Oh, no.
Or
no.
Pittsburgh, or, I can only imagine Shedeur Sanders, or like Seattle. Like, I could only imagine him in New York,
Indianapolis.
Miami,
Imagine him in Indy.
Indianapolis, right? Like, imagine him in Indy.
Oh, I can see. He has New Orleans written all over him, dude.
All right, your turn.
All right, this is something that we haven't really talked about too much, but it was a huge void left. I think that it's something that if not for all the other holes in this roster would be a really huge question mark right now. I think we've talked about it, but not in this sense. The Adams trade left the void. Can a rookie wide receiver or late round gem fill it?
Hell no. Not even close. Not even remotely close.
Okay. It's not saying can they be as good as Davante Adams. Can you fill the void left that Davante left not being there? I think one can. I think like we talked about a little bit like Luther Burden. If Luther Burden is available in the second round, I think he can do a lot of good things for us, and it will ease a lot of the not having Davante Adams around. There's a guy later in the draft who's a late round gem for me. His name's Kyle Williams out of Washington State. He was Cam Ward's go-to guy. Even though Cam Ward went to Miami, Kyle Williams stayed, and he still was very productive last season. So I think that's a late round guy if you want to keep that under your hat.
I think wide receiver is, again, outside of like a really lucky scenario like you brought in. I don't see the Raiders committing to wide receiver just because the draft doesn't fall that way for us. There aren't that many good wide receivers. We could go somewhere at like 4, someone decent that could do something for us, but to be like a true X fill the void left by Davante, that's a big void, man. I just don't see it. I would be shocked if we're just like, all right, that void's filled. And also, I mean, that void also doesn't really truly exist anymore because in Chip Kelly's system, you're not really dependent on an X, right? Like, obviously, you always wanted Davante Adams on your team,
so
right?
much side-to-side movement in that system. You're here's the main thing. Chip Kelly relies on misdirection and getting players in space. That is not technically an offense where you have to have like a technician route runner, because
and that's
the
where
motion,
you need it. And you do need an X that'll block, which Davante never did.
Oh, dude, he liked to talk about blocking, but
no block, no rock.
No.
So kind of a trick question. I don't think there is a void left by Davante, and there isn't anyone in this draft that Raiders could feasibly get that can fill up whatever that void was. I think the Davante void is closed and transformed into something else. It's morphed. It's mutated into a godless creature that Chip Kelly will turn into a star. My turn. Speaking of, how will Chip Kelly's offensive system influence their draft strategy?
You bastard. That's my freaking question.
I know. Well, your questions took my questions. Like I was like, will the Raiders draft a quarterback?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I know. That's why I stole it. I told you it was my favorite question of yours.
That's a good question. Yeah.
My questions were really specific, and you'd be like these broad ones. I'm like, well, that takes up 3 of my questions.
Well, freaking mine, anyway. It was like, it sparks debate.
Yeah, so did mine, but it left room for other questions. It was like, will the Raiders draft good? Like, fuck. There goes
I didn't say that. None of these say that.
But I do like more how you phrased this question, because mine was just like, how will Chip Kelly influence the draft? Because I was thinking like, how much input does he have? How much say does he have? I wanted to have that debate, but I think this is I think you can get a more direct answer because this is independent to Chip Kelly's cachet. It's more just, okay, here's the system. Where do we go with it? How will Chip Kelly's system influence draft strategy? Because I like we agreed earlier, I think archetype's a big part of it. Chip Kelly, we just discussed, has an archetype, needs lateral movement, guys that can move. He'd love a speedster. He'd love an X, but it's not a massive component. And I hope that that Spytek, Carroll, Brady, and whoever else is making decisions understands exactly what type of lineman he needs as well. Not just archetype to succeed, but also to cover up what holes are left in Chip Kelly. Because no system's perfect, right? And I would say that Chip Kelly's biggest problem is he really demands a lot from his 5 linemen, doesn't give him a lot of help. So I think that's probably the biggest thing is, do they recognize the weaknesses in Chip Kelly's system, and we really need some good interior linemen? And then secondarily, can we get him the skill players that can maximize what he's capable of?
Yeah, there's a couple of things that you need to be able to do in specific positions. If you're, I think that because I heard a lot. Who is going to be if you need a catch? If you need 7 yards, if you need 10 yards, you have Brock Bowers. The Brock Bowers has shown that he can get open against anybody out there. He can get open against. It's your top corner. It's a combination of linebacker and safety. It doesn't matter who it is. He gets open against everybody. That's that guy. I talked a little bit of. I think Luther Burden is just as a name that was brought up. He is we would be an excellent move for the Raiders, specifically because it's a Chip Kelly system, and he excels with quick passes, with screen game, and playing in space. So I think that part of how they're going to go into ranking these guys is how well do they fit what we want to get done. And that is how Chip Kelly's system is going to influence the draft strategy. Let's say there's a close grade on a couple of guys. Okay, well, where does this person excel? Does he excel in the things that a player of his position needs to be able to do well? If you can't pass protect as a running back, you're not going to play in a Chip Kelly system. It just can't happen because you're being asked to do a lot of pass protection in that system. So, there's certain things that players have to be able to do to be able to be successful. And I don't know that John Spytek or Pete Carroll have a track record of putting players in positions to not be successful.
And also, I think this draft class, what it's good at is what the two things I talked about with Chip Kelly, right? He needs a really good running back, or at least a running back that can do what he does. And there's so many running backs in this draft. They can get exactly what Chip Kelly's looking for in the 5th. Like Chip Kelly would be like, this is exactly what I want in my running back, and you can get him late. Maybe they do go Ashton Jeanty 6th. Certainly possible, right? Maybe this Chip Kelly's just like, we need to run this ball. Our O-line isn't ready. The running back's going to have to do all the grunt work. We need the best one available. Go Jeanty. Maybe he's doing that as well. And then on the flip side, like I mentioned, clearing up the holes, the things that Chip Kelly hopefully has the self-awareness to know, like, yeah, this is part of my scheme. Again, it's not even like Chip Kelly is dumb or bad. It's like in combat sports, right? There's no perfect move. There's no perfect move that's undefendable, right? I throw a jab, you have 1,000 ways to defend it. It could be a beautiful jab. It could be a great jab, but there's 1,000 ways to defend it. Armbar, that was like, right? Chip Kelly's scheme, yeah, if you want 5 guys running routes and going bonkers, that leaves 5 guys defending. If you want running back, if you want to do a fake to a stagger to a pitch to a reverse and all these really cool things that Chip Kelly develops, those linemen need to block longer and longer and longer and longer so this play can develop, right? You need good interior offensive linemen. That's what's big in this draft. Linemen and running backs. I think those are the 2 big things that Chip Kelly needs in his offense, and that's just what happens to be at that draft.
All righty, last one for me.
Number 10.
Let's see here. Will Pete Carroll push for a run-heavy offense with a first-round running back like Ashton Jeanty?
Well, if we go first round, is there a scenario where we draft a running back in round 1 and have it not be Jeanty?
If we trade back and it's like Omarion Hampton, yeah.
So it would be like an Indy. So like if we traded like our 6 to Indy for
I don't think we
Shedeur
do Omarion Hampton at 14. It would have to be like a double draft, like trade back scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility, especially seeing look, I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's not going to happen, but just let's follow me down the rabbit hole here. There are so many holes and needs on this team. Mm-hmm. With the amount of depth that this draft is going to allow you on the interior offensive line, interior defensive line, at the running back position. And I mean, if you want to say the tight end H-back position, there's a lot of guys there too. Mm. So you get the guys that there's not a lot of depth. You get those guys early and you just load up. Because look, we still need to get a corner. We need to get a corner pretty early in the draft because we need a starting cornerback. Mm-hmm. Right? So there's that. We need a running back. Okay. There's also, a need in receiver. There's a need at quarterback, backup quarterback, to develop. There's just a lot of needs that there's not a lot of depth in. So there are spots on our roster that we need that have depth, but there's also a few that don't have a lot of depth. So trading back multiple times, it's not likely. Of course, it's not likely because teams normally don't do that very often. But if they do, it's because there's so much depth at areas of need.
If there's a 90% chance if we draft the running back in round 1, it's Ashton Jeanty.
Yeah,
we get
that's
90% chance. Right, it's going to be giant.
69, chance. Dude.
Hey.
Where we that from?
Let us know in the comments. Well, I think Pete Carroll will push for a run-heavy offense. Full stop. I think that's what he does. That's what he knows. And Chip Kelly.
Well, the same. I'm going to amend it. I think Pete Carroll / Chip Kelly will push for running the offense.
And yeah, it's funny. Like Chip Kelly's MO is oh yeah, bubble screens and outs, and he's like, no man, it's run game, dude. Like that's what he's known for. That's really what the meat and potatoes of what he does, and everything kind of builds off of it. So yes, they'll push for a run heavy offense. Does that translate into Ashton Jeanty? I don't think so. I don't like you said, so many holes on these roster.
It's
Number
so
6 is a
hard,
sweet
man.
spot. Number 6 is a beautiful sweet spot. And you can get really, really good running backs later on in the draft that I don't know. I don't think you do Genti that early. I don't think you go running back that early. I can't think of any running back you go.
It's so hard because
so
you're
many
having
holes.
to read. Yeah, you're having to read the mind of 32 different GMs, basically. Yeah. It's just so hard to pinpoint a specific person. That's why when I talk about mock drafts, it's not forget about the specific player. Look at how the whole draft pans out, and look at what the mocker was trying to do in that mock draft. Does it make sense? Is it logical? Do the players fit what they're trying to do? Because, dude, it's just everyone's so like enamored with the aha gotcha moment. Yeah, they picked this guy in the second round. I knew they were gonna. Well, yeah, the other 9 picks that you picked for this team were wrong. Mm-hmm. So it's like, you have to look at it from that lens, because it's going to give you a more realistic view of how a mock is supposed to be looked at as far as strategy by a team.
So those are our 10 burning questions for the 2025 NFL draft. So we'll tack on the last bonus one, the obvious one. And with the 6th pick of the 2025 NFL draft, the Las Vegas Raiders select.
It's your question, dude.
Mason Graham.
You think so? I think it's a great pick.
I think he falls to us. There's really maybe the Jags take him at 5. Other than that, look, you got the 2 quarterbacks potentially. You got Carter, Travis Hunter. The Jags need help at there's tackles to think about. There's other defensive ends that can fill in there. Maybe someone goes T-Mac and that desperately need a quarterback. They do that early. I think Mason Graham is there, first off, to make that why we can get him. And secondly, with so many holes in the defense, you can plug up those holes really well with the world's best defensive line. Christian Wilkins next to Mason Graham. On the ends, Malcolm Kuntz, and then, by the way, Maxx Crosby. You line those 4 motherfuckers up, and all of a sudden having linebackers off the scrap heap, undrafted free agents at corner, holes all over the secondary. A lot easier to handle that. When the quarterback's running for his life. Linemen aren't getting off blocks. Devin White proved he can get you a lot of tackles as long as no one's blocking him. Right? If your defensive tackles and defensive linemen are taking all the responsibilities, that'll make a linebacker look amazing. And
Devin White is a more athletic Corey Littleton. Because Corey Littleton played great when he had Ndamukong Suh and Aaron Donald playing in front of him.
Looked amazing, right?
Yeah,
that's what this
fine.
D-line
Yes,
would be.
that's fine. If we can get that out of him by getting him, if we can improve multiple levels of our defense by drafting one player, I think it's a great pick. I love Mason Graham as a player. There's a couple of players that I really love at that spot.
So I think Mason Graham for all those reasons. And then offense, we've already committed to Geno Smith. Geno Smith's already proven that with no help around him, he can still play well, right? So
he can still play winning football.
It's not an excuse for the offense to not have personnel and not loaded up. But Geno Smith has proven with a shitty O-line, no run game, hampered wide receivers, he can get you 10 wins still, right? The defense hasn't proved that. Defense, you make that defensive line top 3, maybe number 1 in football. All of a sudden, your linebackers and DBs and everybody, their life's far, far easier. Patrick Graham will scheme something up. You're in a good position, and then you turn your attention to offense. Mason Graham, defensive tackle, Michigan.
I think the biggest 3 possibilities are Mason Graham, which I love that pick, Mason Graham, Ashton Jeanty, and Armand Membu. Those are the 3 guys I would put. I think that the question is, what are they going to do? I think that takes Ashton Jeanty out of the mix, because Spytek has been wherever he goes, most of the time they pick offensive or defensive linemen early. They build from the inside out. I know a lot of teams like to say they want to do that, but Spytek's come from a place, and Pete Carroll also is a guy that likes to get those two sides of the ball really dialed in. I mean, I want to say Mason Graham because, you know, he reminds me of Warren Sapp. And if you say, hey, yeah, we can draft Warren Sapp in this draft, would you draft him? Yes, of course you would. But I'm gonna.
It just completes the set too, right? It's just like that last piece to make this D line just fucking take over games. You know,
like I said, you're gonna improve every layer of your defense with one player. It's gonna make much more double teams and blown assignments up front, blocking wise, for your linebackers to be able to have cleaner feet to be able to make tackles on their own. And it's going to give the quarterback less time and more disruption to throw the ball, and it's going to help the DBs in that respect. It is a great. I feel that Mason Graham added to this defensive line, it makes much more of an impact than Armand Membu does on the offensive line. As good as Armand Membu is, he's only 20 years old. It's crazy. Mm-hmm.
All right, that's it for us. Next week is the draft. Probably maybe do our show a little earlier. Maybe do like a Tuesday show. Maybe like a live. If we can pull it off, because obviously Thursday will be the first, day one of the draft. We'll see what we do. Stay tuned.
Keep it funky.
Stay tuned, ladies and gentlemen. Until then, knock on wood if you're with me. Hey, you made it to the end of our video. Great job. I know you want more. Go ahead and click the next video. And if you're feeling crazy, go ahead and subscribe.